You can really smell it, huh? Today I will be making a modern Navajo recipe for people who want a more nutritious meal. The recipe I have today is a lamb with green chili and vegetables, and the benefits of each ingredient I will use will help to create a more balanced meal for people. The recipe today calls for 1 pound of lamb stew meat, and this is where we're going to get our extra protein from for today. And I'm going to be seasoning the lamb with 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, and half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then to add to the lamb meat's flavor, we're going to add in roasted green chili. So first vegetable we're going to use is a medium zucchini. This is going to be our non-starchy option. And then we're going to use our yellow squash, another non-starchy option, and 2 Roma tomatoes. And to help enhance the flavor, we're going to be using roasted toasted pepitas, which are pumpkin kernels, a tablespoon of olive oil, and a pinch of coarse salt. And to help boost our fiber intake for today, we're going to be using canned pinto beans, and we're choosing canned pinto beans that have no salt added. So before we get started, we're going to get a medium frying pan and we're going to put it on medium-high heat to allow it to heat up so that when it's time to start cooking our meat, everything will be nice and hot. And instead of using oil, I'm going to be sauteing our meat in water. So we just add that. Now we're going to start to season our meat, and if you have a mixing bowl at home, that's perfectly fine. But I'm using a Ziploc bag today, and I'm just going to add in my meat into the bag, and I'm going to start to add in my seasonings. So I'm doing some dried parsley, a tablespoon of that onion powder, and that's going to be equivalent to a medium-sized onion. And then I'm doing half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and that's going to be equivalent to 2 garlic cloves. And I'm just gonna, since I'm using a Ziploc bag, I'm just gonna ensure that it's tightly sealed, and I'm just gonna evenly coat all my meat. Now that our pan is nice and hot, I'm going to add in my seasoned lamb meat. So since we are sauteing our meat for today, I've only added water. And we're just going to let it brown evenly on all sides on high heat for about 10 minutes. And around that 10-minute mark, we're going to add in our roasted green chili. So while our lamb meat is cooking, I'm going to start chopping up my roasted green chili. So I roasted these ones earlier and I peeled the skin. And this is going to help enhance the flavor. You can really smell it, huh? And you can see that when it's getting close to that 10-minute mark, a lot of our lamb has completely browned. And at this stage, you can add in your green chili. So I'm just going to create a little open pit for the green chili, and I'm going to add in as much as I can. And we're just going to evenly mix it because we want all of this to cook together. So as we know, we're sauteing our meat in water. Be careful not to put a lid on top of your pot, because once you put a lid on your pan, it's going to trap in all of that moisture, and it's going to change the consistency and the texture of the ingredients that you're cooking with. Okay, now at this point we can start to bring our temperature down to a bit of a medium-high heat. And then you can just give it one last turn so it doesn't brown completely on one end. And as you can see, that with just cooking with just water, it still comes out with the same effects as cooking with oil. Alright, so while our meat and our green chili cooks, we can start cutting up our veggies. Now, the thing I like about this recipe is we don't have to really strive to make it perfect. We're really just cooking and reheating these veggies up. So, of course, I'm gonna cut my zucchini into smaller portions, and this is cutting it into spears. And then from that point, I'm just gonna loosely chop. It's good to try to make it evenly sized so that it cooks all at once. But because we like texture and we like our food to be fun, I'm not gonna focus so much on keeping them the same size. Okay, so I'm going to turn this once again to medium-high, and I'm going to add in my 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And I'm just going to allow this to heat up to temp as much as possible. And at this stage, we can still check on our lamb. So at this point, it looks like our lamb and green chili are done, so I'm just going to take that off the heat and put it to the side. So now that my pan is nice and heated with the oil, I'm just going to add in my chopped squash, and I'm going to cook until it starts to lightly brown on the edges. And now that we shift to a lot more plant-based oils, olive oil is a great option for those who cook at high temps. The acidity inside the oil does impart flavor into the foods. And on top of that, it's actually going to help with cholesterol as well. So compared to lard or shortening, which increases negative forms of cholesterol, the olive oil actually helps to promote good forms of cholesterol that can help lower those negative forms over time. So while the summer squash cooks in the pan, I'm going to start to dice up my Roma tomatoes. I'm still keeping that nice and chunky chop. And the benefits of Roma tomatoes is that they are also non-starchy vegetables, and the bit of acidity inside of them is mainly coming from vitamin C. And this is where we start to see the balance in our meals, because the vitamin C, what it's going to do is it's going to help pull the iron out from the lamb and the other vegetables so that your body is able to absorb it. Your squash should be developing a nice brown edge on its corners, and this is known as caramelization. So a lot of those natural sugars, which we aren't really used to or are very much aware of, that caramelization is actually because of those sugars breaking down and cooking. And that's what's going to add a lot to the flavor. And now that it's starting to get to that point, I'm just going to add in my tomatoes. And once again, give it a good stir. Salt is, once again, optional, but if you want to help increase the flavor, we're going to do just a pinch of coarse salt into our veggie mixture. And the salt, all it's doing is it's going to help bring out a lot of those flavors in our veggies. We want to keep an eye on the tomato skin, because once the skin starts to welt, where it starts to scrunch together, that's when we can start to add in our final ingredient. And this final ingredient is going to be pumpkin kernels. which is basically papitas. And the benefits of this ingredient is that it has protein inside of it, so it's also considered a plant-based protein, and it has magnesium as well. And that magnesium is going to help a lot with balancing our body throughout the day. And one of the main benefits that we see with magnesium, and different types of forms, it can help a lot with gut health, and it can help with nerve health as well. Okay, I'm going to add it in. Okay, at this point now you can really smell that summer squash, and you can see that the tomatoes have fully wilted. Now that all of our ingredients are finally cooking, I'm going to bring my temperature down to a low heat. You can even turn it off at this point because the vegetables are still going to cook inside this hot pan. And that will give me plenty of time to start cooking my final ingredient, which is going to be our canned pinto beans with no salt added. And at this stage, we want to start getting our pinto beans reheated. And I'm just going to use the same pan that we cooked the lamb meat in, and I'm just going to add that to a heat-safe plate. We're going to do about medium heat, and we're just going to add in our canned pinto beans. And we're just going to allow that to heat up to temp. I'm just going to do a whole cup scoop of our cooked summer squash and tomatoes and pumpkin seeds. I'm going to add that to my plate. And as you can see already, half of our plate is veggies. And the next thing we're going to add in is our protein, where of course lamb itself is going to be a lean form of protein. So I'm going to add in about roughly half a cup of our lamb. And for many people, if you have a scale at home, you can choose up to 3 ounces for your protein per mealtime. I'm going to add that here. And then finally, when it comes to our starchy choices, that's going to be a variety of fruits, grains, or starchy veggies. And of course, with pinto beans, although pinto beans do have protein, they are considered a starchy food. And that's because of the amount of fiber that's inside of it. So when we want to create balanced meals, we're going to choose up to 1/3 cup of a starchy food option. So of course I'm just going to, use a spoon to help scoop in. So this is going to be considered 1 starchy food choice per mealtime. I'm going to add that to our plate. And right now, this is how our balanced plate is going to look. Half our plate is going to be a mix of non-starchy veggies. 1/4 of our plate is going to be a lean protein, which is going to be a mixture of our lamb and roasted green chili. And then 1/4 of our plate is going to be our starchy food choice.